Welcome back to today's episode of Expert Showcase. Today on the show we have Jeff McMahon, and now we're going to jump into the Expert Focus. And by the way, folks, if you didn't hear and you just joining us and you didn't watch and listen to Jeff's hero's journey, you got to go back and watch and listen to it, because as you come to expect from Expert Showcase, there are a ton of golden nuggets, a lot about business and a lot about how Jeff went through his struggles to end up coming out on the other side and realize that one of the things he realized was that being focused was much better than being diffused, so to speak. And I know you hear it all the time, but until you hear from a person who was struggling paycheck to paycheck and turned, a $33,000 a year business into, I think you said seven figures at this point, Jeff, or at some point seven figures?
Multiple six figures, yeah.
Multiple six figures. Well, see, we're pushing you forward. You're going to get to seven
Yeah,
figures. It's that call.
that's what I'm
It's
hoping. Let's go.
it's exactly but the whole point is when you go from under 50K to multiple six figures, that's a success story. And one of the ways he did it was through staying focused. And you have to go back and watch the hero's journey piece of our show to find out all about that. So Jeff, in this part of the show, now we're going to focus on your focus, the expert focus, business versus body and health. Which comes first? So let's start off with giving a quick summary. Then I'll give the folks the three keys to success, and we'll dive right in. Give us a quick summary of what we're going to be talking about here in this episode today.
Yeah, the quick summary is going to be just about how accountability, reverse engineering your lifestyle, and prioritizing your time makes everything happen where fitness doesn't have to be put on the back burner. Your health should be just as important as your money, and you don't let your money, your business you don't walk away from your business and just let it go for years and expect great things. You can't let your health go for years and expect you to be healthy and, look presentable on stage and have confidence and, not have health issues and all that kind of jazz. So the big focus today is going to be how to combine those so it's convenience, accountable, and you get results so you're happy at the end of the day.
Wow, that is epic, because as we all know, there's these ideas floating around that I think it's health, friendship, business, and I forget what else. There's a list of three or five things, and they say you're only allowed to. I think there's a list of three things, and you're only allowed to pick two. Maybe I'll look that up by the time this episode actually airs and put the link in, since I mentioned it twice and I still can't remember what exactly it was. But that's besides the point. The three keys to success we're going to be talking about today are being accountable, nutrition, and knowledge of a plan. So, Jeff, let's dive right in. The first thing is being accountable. What are we going to talk about here?
Well, I mean, accountability is the big differentiator to wanting to get results and actually getting results. I mean, anyone can order a DVD that's, P90X or something like that, or get an app on their phone because they're free and things of that nature. But we all know when you're home, no one's going to, there's so many other things that distract you that you're not going to just, oh, let me go in the basement and work out right now. You might have the plan when you wake up in the morning, but by the end of the day, you're like, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. Oh, I'm too busy, I'm tired, I'll do it tomorrow. But when you have that meeting that you're supposed to meet with your health coach in the morning or whatever time you set for your appointment, you're going to show up to it because you don't want to let that person down. Psychologically, we don't want to let people down, and that comes all the way from growing up. You don't want to let your parents down. You don't want to let your teachers down in school. Your coach if you're playing a sport. So it's ingrained in us as youth. So when we're adults, subconsciously we have that same. I don't want to let someone else down, so I'm definitely going to make it to the meeting. I mean, I didn't want to let Chris down, so I showed up to my appointment today. It's things of that nature that the accountability is the main focus of my business to allow people to not have the dream but live the dream.
Yeah, I love that. Not only have the dream, but live the dream. Love it, love it. But I have a question about accountability, because there are some people who struggle with accountability. Now, put aside the question of whether they're your ideal clients or not. We can answer that in a second. But when it comes to accountability, first of all, have you ever found somebody in your life or in your one of your clients who has struggled with accountability?
Yeah, I mean, accountability from, everyone is different, so no one's going to have the same background or life or things of that nature. So accountability for everyone and is different as far as their results and everything like that. So when I see people that struggle with accountability, they're more or less afraid, and that fear is what holds them back, as opposed to the open-mindedness of what you need to get that accountability partner.
Wow, and that is so true because I've known a lot of people who struggle. I know a lot of people too who struggle with accountability, and what it all boils down to is fear of something. It might be fear of
Yeah.
success. You know, it might be. I mean, let me ask you that question. When you're talking about being accountable, so I know we're focused on being accountable, but since we talked about fear here for a second, when you see somebody who's maybe has the fear of being held accountable for something, and that and the the fear of do you ever find that it's maybe could be a fear of success, like the fear of, oh my gosh, if I lose this weight, or if I get healthy, or if I become more active, then and then fill in the blank. Do you ever find that that
I have a
happen?
prime example of that. Um, a lady is married, with a child. They got divorced. She still has custody of the children, but she gained a lot of weight from it, and she's so afraid of losing weight because she doesn't want to be checked out by another guy, or just um, let down by another guy or something like that. That she'd rather be overweight and avoided, or looked past, than being healthier and putting herself out there, because she's fear of rejection. And it boils down to the fear of rejection. And so that's like a prime example of that fear can just be so overwhelming in your life that, I mean, you're willing to give up your health as opposed to wanting to make the change to be healthy, to be around for your daughter or kids or whatever you have going on.
Well, and that ends up becoming what's your big why. I mean, right now, her why of not being hurt again by another guy is more powerful than the why of being, and I hate to say it this way, and I'll say it because she's your client, so she can yell at me, but it sounds like her why of not being, wanting to be hurt again is more powerful than the why of wanting to be around for her children forever, because it's very, very
Yep.
painful, and it's very, very painful to get hurt again. Whereas in the brain can rationalize it and say, well, it's going to be 50 years or something until we have to deal with the health issues, right?
Right. And I mean, a lot of the problem with being overweight or even diabetes and things of that nature is it doesn't hurt. Now, if you have a broken arm, you're not going to use that arm because it hurts. But when you're overweight, you're not going to stop eating or change your eating habits because it's not hurting you to do so. And so that was another big thing of finding out in my profession, is how to take that and more or less educate people so that fear isn't so scary. People are a lot of afraid of what they don't know, and so the more education they have and understanding, that's why I try to put it in layman's terms, and I don't do the whole yelling boot camp thing, because it's more understanding the body that people see the big difference, and not the Jillian Michaels fat Biggest Loser. I can't stand her, but Biggest Loser aspect where you just, we got to do this right now or else you're worthless, and like that doesn't help, especially when these are real people, not that kind of jazz.
Yeah, exactly. Well, back to the account, and I so agree, and back to that accountability thing. Obviously, you have an ideal client, so I'm going to guess you have pretty much a constant way of keeping people accountable. But when you're looking at people, keeping people accountable, do you, if you get somebody who might not be your ideal client at the beginning, do you find different ways of helping to keep them accountable? Or is that maybe a standard? Is everybody different when it comes to how to keep them accountable for something?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue with accountability is finding out the why. If you need to hold yourself accountable, ask yourself why, and then ask yourself why again. Like, if there's 5 levels to asking why, is when you get to the root of it. Um, and then if you can't do it yourself, then you hire a coach like me or someone else that's, whatever, to help you along that journey. And so my biggest thing for anyone looking for accountability, no matter what your goals are, why is that goal important? Okay, now what's that why? Like if you want to train for a cycling event, why do you want to train for that cycling event? What's so important that that cycling event means more than, you have to wake up early in the morning? Things of that nature, you just break down the layers so you get to the root of it, and that's where accountability is at the bottom.
Oh, epic! And I love the 5 levels. I mean, when I teach people things, I tell them to continue asking themselves why
Yeah,
until they find the answer. But I love the 5 levels, and that kind of puts at least a casing around it to give people a little bit more to grab onto. The
right.
interesting thing I think I heard in there was that you can be accountable to yourself. So let me ask you this question. I know a lot of times when we talk about accountability and being accountable, it's always to somebody else. And even at the beginning of this conversation, we start off by talking about being accountable to somebody else. But do you find that in some cases people can be accountable to themselves and at least make some progress?
Yeah, and that's why like my programs I have set in 3 different levels depending on what your accountability needs are. But like I hold myself accountable. I don't have a workout partner. Um, I have to the drive inside myself because I did find out my whys. And when I got down to it, the main point is my mom had a lot of medical issues. My family's had, cancers and all that kind of jazz. I want to live as healthy as I can to know that I gave my body the best chance in this world. And that was before kids, before marriage, kind of stuff. My mom was born with a hole in her heart. She had open heart surgery after I was born. The stroke. She's had breast cancer twice. Thyroid issues, brain deterioration. There's a whole gambit that my why is to be healthy so I can take care of people, and that's my driving motivation. So when I do it to other people, it's coming from a good place because I did it to myself.
Wow, that is so profound, and it's an example of where when you have that deep enough why, and when you have
Hmm.
that burning desire why, you can achieve. I I pause before I say anything. You can achieve anything you were meant to achieve, and not that me or
Right.
anybody else is holding you down. Fact of it is, you have a blueprint inside of you, to be successful. And once you find it, live to, through, and within it, I call it the 0 point. It's something that you can be ultra successful. So it's just amazing how you've turned a lot of negativity and a lot of tragedy, as people would talk about, into positivity. And before we wrap up the accountable, I love the fact that what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is when you find that deep enough why, you can get to a point where you can hold yourself accountable and still achieve success without needing that external accountability partner, so to speak, that has been pushed in and is said is that a lot of people say is so critical to success.
Right. I mean, people stick with me because they like the different workouts, the, new routines and all that kind of jazz. But as far as, after a year or two of being with me, they're to the point that they could do it on their own. It's just more of a preference that they'd like to work with someone. But,
Right.
you know, um, whoever's going to stick with me forever, I'd be happy if they did. But, my job is to make people to the point where they can do it on their own.
Right, exactly. And I guess that's one of the things I was to wrap up accountability. One of the things I was trying to get to was it's great to have an accountability partner at the beginning, and it's great.
Yeah.
There are people who need external accountability partners, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. My contention is that our industry a lot pushes that external accountability because let's face it, external accountability equals more money and more clients for a lot of people. I'm a big believer that, as you had said, people come in, we help them for a time. If they stay with us forever, that's great. But our goal should really be to get them to be self sufficient and be able to rely on themselves because there's going to come a time where we're not around. And if we
Yeah.
force them to rely on us, then we're actually doing them a disservice, right?
Right. That's why I do as much education as I can, break down their barriers as much as I can, and uh, make it a part of their lifestyle. So even if it's not with me, they're going to have that desire to keep going on their own or whatever.
Epic, epic. So let's go ahead and jump into nutrition. So what are we going to talk about here in nutrition?
Well, nutrition's a big part because anyone that's lost weight, you can't do it from working out. You lose weight by changing your diet or nutritional plan or whatever you want to call it. I don't like diet because it's always short term, but um, to lose weight, you have to eat healthier. Then from that, you work out to tone up your body so you look the way you want to look. So you need both, But the most important is 80% is nutrition, 20% is working out. So when you have the nutrition on point, your workouts will accentuate, but you can never outwork out your diet. And so when teaching people that process of, diet or nutrition is just a numbers game. When you find out how many calories your body burns every day, and you eat 500 calories less than that a day, in a week you've lost a pound of weight. And then if you're working out and you're burning more calories but you're keeping your intake down, then you're going to burn weight or lose weight faster. I mean, it's just math. So once you figure out that formula, gaining weight, losing weight, whatever, isn't as scary as it sounds. You don't have to live on rabbit food and, do all these power shakes and take fat burner pills and that kind of jazz. You just got to focus on the numbers, apply it to every single day, be consistent with it, and then your body starts to be, regular. I'm not going to be gross, but like going to number one and number two, you lose weight by going to the bathroom.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If you are not doing that, anyone that's listening to this, if you're not going to the bathroom at least twice a day for number two, and at least peeing at least 2 or 3 times a day, you're not pushing the toxins and fat out of your body, so it stores up and builds up bacteria and everything else, and it's not good. So that's just food for thought. See where you are. I mean, you don't have to tell me, but just see where you are, and that'll help out with how healthy you are.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll get 1,000 comments below. Hey, I took a dump twice today. Woo!
Best day ever.
Yeah. I have a running joke. I have a number of clients who are in the baby boomer generation, and we always joke that we always know how much older we're getting. It's all in when the conversation turns to bowel movements. It's like if it's the first thing out of your mouth, you're about 85 years old. It's like ever call a grandma and find out what the first thing she says to you. And normally it's, well, I was pretty regular today. So anyway, enough about that. But no, it's so interesting because I went through my own weight loss journey as the viewers have heard before, and that was one of the things that they were always really concerned about. They said, look, you depending on what plan you're on, depending on what you're doing, we understand you're trying to lose weight, but if you find that things aren't just moving right, then you're maybe not taking enough fat in, which is so counterintuitive to losing weight. I mean, I know there's a paleo diet. I know there's 1,000 different ways to do it, but a lot of people think that hey, this is great. My body's just processing everything, and it's like, well, yeah, it could be to a point, but anyway, you're the expert in this. I'm just babbling at this point. Go ahead.
Well, be honest. You lost weight by changing your nutritional plan or by working out? Which
No,
one?
I mean that's the funny thing. Nobody believed it, but both times that I lost, I lost 100 pounds once and like 80 pounds the second time, and both times, and nobody believes it. But I did, I didn't work out a stitch, and it
Right.
was all about changing. It was all about changing the amount of food, and for me, and here's what I wanted to ask you and see if you found this with your clients as well. For me, it was all about almost regardless, not regardless of the calories, because calories are an important measure, but it was about having that right mix of salty and sweet and fat and carb and the right mix of food to allow my body to process the food right. Not necessarily, depriving and going always completely fat free or always completely sodium free or always completely carb free. I mean, what have you found when it comes to nutrition with your clients?
Well, I mean, the scariest thing about fat-free is things are supposed to have fat in it. Your body needs fat to be able to break down carbohydrates, proteins, and all that kind of jazz. It uses it for energy. Because when you don't have fat, then it starts eating your muscles, and then your heart is a muscle. Things start to shut down. I mean, it's serious.
Yeah.
So, yes, people take in way too much fat, way too many carbs, things of that nature. But when you get a coach or read up more or whatever, you start to learn how your body uses all of those. I have carbs in my diet, I have fat in my diet, I have fruits, I have lots of veggies, and I have protein, and a shit ton of water. Like
Yeah.
water, 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 water. So you have to have water because it keeps your body hydrated. I mean, you put gas in your car if you want to go somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to put water in your body if you want to do anything with it. But I mean, the biggest thing with nutrition is just understanding that you do need all of them, and it's finding the balance of your basal metabolic rate, which is that number of how many calories you burn, finding out how many calories you're eating, and then exercise, like I said, helps, but it's not necessary as opposed to, in just the topic of losing weight.
Right. Now I heard that the figure I've always gone by is it is 10 calories per pound. Like in other words, if you can't go and get tested for what your actual base metabolic rate is, your resting metabolic rate, I've always heard it's roughly about 10 calories per pound. So in other words, if you're a 200-pound man, that's kind of where they came up with the whole 2,000 calorie diet. So if
Yeah,
you're a 200-pound man and you want to lose a pound a week, you have to cut your diet down to 1,500 calories a day. And if you cut it down to 1,500
correct,
calories a day,
correct.
you'll end up losing quote unquote a pound a week. So
But
see folks,
just,
it's simple.
I mean, just Google the letters B as in basal, M as in metabolic, and R as in rate. BMR. If you Google that, you'll have there's formulas right there. You just plug in your height, your age, your weight, and your activity level, and it'll tell you what your number is. And it'll tell you how many calories to lose weight, and then you can go online and find diet plans for that weight, calorie count, all that kind of jazz. You just have to be open to what I tell everyone is like eating green vegetables and changing the carbs that you eat. Like the three carbs that you want to focus is sweet potatoes, brown rice, quinoa, I guess, and oatmeal. I mean, those are the only carbs that I really eat. Uh, Protein is a whole wide gambit, but green veggies, if you eat green vegetables at night, your body will have enough vitamins and minerals to burn fat while you sleep. So if you're looking to lose weight, eating green vegetables at night is your body burns fat when it's sleeping. That's when your body is recuperating, catching up, and everything like that. That's the way the cycle works is as you intake oxygen and convert it to CO2, that's how your body burns fat, and you do the most of that either while exercising or while sleeping. So if you do exercise a lot and sleep a lot, that's why they say you got to get 7 to 8 hours a night of sleep, because that's in order to lose weight. That's what you need to be doing. If you go less than that, you're not giving your body enough time to be burning fat.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's funny because you talk about green veggies, and I know a lot of people, kind of cringe when they hear that. I tell you, one of the things I did is I love chicken and broccoli, and I got kind of on that kick when I was when I lost my weight the last time. But I just love throwing a nice 4 to 8 ounce piece of chicken in a pan, boneless, skinless chicken in a pan, throwing a half a bag of broccoli, all around it, and that ends up being a huge meal. I mean, when you're talking about 8 ounces of 4 to 8 ounces of protein and pretty much 5 servings of broccoli, but if you look at the calories, it's like 400 calories, and
Right.
it's something that and you feel full until like the next day, until the next day doing it. And the other thing that I do, just real quick, like I said, you're the expert, but just to kind of give folks one of my tricks is, I'll get Costco sells this no salt organic seasoning, and it's all like oregano and parsley and black pepper and all this other stuff, but there's no salt at all in it. So find something that enhances the taste without adding a whole bunch of sodium, and um, it's a lot easier to enjoy things like green vegetables and lean protein than it is just merely to just have to take it in. Because would you agree, Jeff, that we can tell people, and you can tell people and coach people all you want on getting great nutrition, if they're acting like a kid eating Brussels sprouts, it's not going to last and be a lifestyle change where they have to figure out how to make it their own, so to speak.
Right. And, when talking of nutrition, I eat healthy food because I like the way I look. I know by eating these vegetables, I'm going to be able to keep my abs, I'm going to keep my muscles strong, that kind of jazz. And when you have that transition, that not vanity, but self-awareness and confidence, your whole mindset changes. When you're like, oh, I'm never going to be able to have cake again and this and that, you can, because once you're eating healthy, your body's pushing that out. I'll eat bad every once in a while, have ice cream or eat a row of Oreo cookies or whatever. But I know, even Taco Bell late night, but I know the next morning my body's going to push it out because it knows it's getting healthy food in immediately. So the more you train your body in with the good and out with the bad, even when you eat bad, it'll flush it out.
Right. And I think it's an interesting segue right into knowledge of a plan. Because whether it's whether it's a plan of working out or whether it's a plan of eating, it all comes back to creating a plan and having a knowledge of that and teaching your body what that plan's all about. Am I
Mhm.
on base there or off base?
No, you're on base because with a plan like, Pat wanting to do the triathlon or Chris Ducker wanting to fix his back or, any of my clients, like pregnant people, things of that nature, want to lose the baby weight. When you have a plan, a lot of people don't know how to do it. Like Pat wants to dunk a basketball. He has no idea what to do to dunk a basketball. So now that he has that goal, we set forth a plan to do so. And as he follows it, he's 5'8", and he's now touching the rim of a basketball hoop that's 10 feet in the air. So
Wow.
it's, he's like, oh my God, I've never been able to do this in my entire life. And he's so excited and just now, then it makes you want to do more and more and more. So um, that's where I come in is the listening to people's plans to know how to put them in place so then they can get the results, get that excitedness, and then find the next plan that they want to do. They want to keep going, keep going, keep going.
Right.
You lost your weight because you were on a plan to do so because you wanted to, get healthier, be on stage in front of people, have that confidence. I mean, confidence is a huge factor when you're talking about health and wellness.
Yeah, and I can tell you, from my own personal experience, I mean, it's interesting because, and folks, if you haven't seen your mind do this, I invite you to watch what's going on in your mind at different stages of your life. And here's what I mean. I know when I was bigger, I could act. If I look back on those circumstances when I would meet people and talk to people, I can tell you I acted like, and if you look from the outside, I didn't have the same confidence level. And I was kind of just like the shy fat guy, even though I'm not shy. And that's one of the reasons why people could never relate the two, because when I would come out, when I would finally be comfortable around people, I'd show them my true self, and it would be so incongruent because I'd be kind of like the John Candy, Chris Farley, happy fat guy, and they didn't realize that was me normally. That what they were seeing was this: I was so unsure because I was overweight that they would accept me. That I, didn't have that confidence, but I know that when I lost the weight and everything else, you walk in with a different air of confidence and everything, and everything else. So back to the important thing, which is you and the knowledge of the plan. So it sounds like one of the things you do with your clients is to understand where they want to go and then help work together with them to create a plan so that they can understand and they can accept and they can take that plan into their core so that even when they're not, even on the days or the times they're not working with you, they can stick to the plan. I mean, is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, I mean, because if you correlate it to business, if you want to be a millionaire, well, that's not going to happen tomorrow by not doing anything. You have to have a plan in place to do your marketing, build up your audience, get customers, build brand awareness, all that kind of stuff. So your plan is being put in place, whether it's by you or a coach or someone else. I'm doing the same thing for fitness to take you to the millionaire status of your body. Like I feel like I'm $1 million. You feel like you're $1 million because you changed and you feel good. That feeling, no matter how much money in the world, isn't going to change because I feel great. You feel great. And I want everyone to have that same feeling of, being able to walk around on a beach with their shirt off and not be self-conscious, or is my belly hanging over my pants, or is this bathing suit too tight if I'm a woman? Things of that nature.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. So a question about plans. When you work with a client and you're trying to help them achieve a goal, do you, I hate to say force, but do you recommend they stick to the plan, or do you monitor their future goal and as that changes, change the plan along with it?
oh, it's always changing. I have to roll with the punches. Things come up. Life isn't a perfect plan anyway, so it's ever changing as far as the how to get there, but the end goal is usually always the same.
Epic. So in other words, you really, it sounds like you subscribe to the fact that that the journey and the fun of the journey is more important than that actual hard and rigid plan that you put in place to get there. So that if you want to, it's kind of like if you want to take a sightseeing tour, or if you want to take a detour, you understand what that detour is going to cost, but that you understand that it might be worth the cost. I mean, is that fair to say,
Right.
or?
and how to get back on track and reevaluate how important that end goal is, so that if that program has to change a little bit, we can change it. Or if for some reason they go on vacation, then we have to change the workouts for like that vacation. And so life in general is going to have obstacles, and it's just how to deal with the obstacles for that plan to come in place where they're happy at the end of the day with where they reached in that journey.
Yeah, and in the end, I mean, a plan is like a good plan is like a map. I mean, you understand that you need to be to, to achieve. If you want to drive from Pennsylvania to Arizona and you want to make it there in 3 days, you're not stopping and you're driving straight through. But if you have 3 weeks to
Right.
get there, you know that you have to be to this state by this day and this state by this day, or you won't be able to make up the time legally to actually. And
To
it's
get
kind of
there.
an interesting. Well, it's kind of an interesting. It's kind of the same analogy because you can't. You can't just. You're not going to drive 200 miles an hour unless you have a hypercar and don't get stopped by any cops. But you can't drive
Right.
200 miles an hour legally to get to Arizona from Pennsylvania and make it there if you leave a day and a half after you were supposed to. Just like there's no legal way to meet your fitness goals if you completely take detours all the time and don't realize that your goal is 3 weeks from now and you haven't lifted one weight or you haven't done one thing, right?
Right. And that's where my knowledge is so effective, because when there is little detours, I can get you back on track and still get you there by day 4 or day 5 to Arizona, as opposed to just day 3.
Right, exactly. And it sounds like it's all about, okay, so if there was a detour, it's about readjusting maybe the end dates and saying, look, you now have blown past that, but rather than completely getting rid of it for your entire life, let's get you there a couple of days or a couple of weeks later than you originally planned on getting there.
Yes, exactly.
And then that works, unless, and this is where having an accountability partner and them knowing your plan, it sounds like it also works so that, if you have a big race coming up, that
Hmm.
if you stay closer to the plan, you're going to be able to achieve success and get to the weight or get to whatever you wanted to by that race. Where if you don't have a plan, it's a hit or miss whether you're going to achieve what you wanted to by that race or that event, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You got
Epic.
it. Hit the nail on the head.
Epic. Before we get into the call to action, I just want to talk real quick. I mean, it kind of goes into plan, and it's something I didn't plan on doing until about a half hour ago. The fact of the matter is, this whole concept of virtual training is great. And, we've got folks all over the world. We've had people from Canada to, I think it feels like the only country we haven't had is Mexico on this show, but we've had Russia, we've had Ukraine, we've had Spain, we've had India, we've had Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Canada, all over. So we have people all over the world watching this.
Hmm.
The interesting thing I find is that you work with people virtually. Give our folks a little bit of a taste and understanding about what you do to train somebody virtually.
Well, okay. Right now, I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. I have clients that I train in person, but then virtually, I have people in California, Texas, Oklahoma, Oregon, Canada, Michigan, Florida, Philippines with Chris Ducker, and Jamaica. So that's all over the place, as far as geographically. And it's just the same as working out with someone, because it's like right now, I can see you, you can see me. If I'm telling you to do bicep curls this way, I can watch your form, count your reps, keep the pace going, show the intensity, all that kind of jazz. Um, the huge benefit though is that's where we get into not having to decide between business or health, because you don't have to sit in traffic going to a gym. You don't have to drive literally anywhere. You don't have to have a whole bunch of equipment. On my website, I have a list of resources, like 4 or 5 pieces of equipment you can get for under $60, and we can utilize everything and have huge, dynamic, fun workouts that you never get bored. So it's not like having a P90X DVD, because honestly, you're going to go through P90X even if you did all 3 months of it, and then you're never going to play it again. You're not going to go, oh, I want to start all over again. You want the next, something different.
Yeah.
So with me being a live training, we are always doing something different. We're hitting those goals. We're not taking up a lot of space. You don't have to spend, if you have treadmills or whatever, that's great. We'll utilize it. But we can just do body weight and just start from there. So a lot of my clients are so appreciative of me because they work from home, they have kids, they have families, and they don't have time to go to the gym, so they make it a priority to see me every week and get their routines, work out at home, and it makes it fun because ideally everyone would want to work out at home. You know, it's intimidating being in a gym with all the bigger muscle guys or this or that, especially being a female or an overweight guy or things of that nature. So now there's no intimidation. There's all the accountability in the world. It's totally convenient, and we get results every single time.
Epic. So folks, I'm going to put up a website right now, which is look confused every now and then. That's okay. It's my life. So, folks, I'm going to throw up Jeff's website now. It's totalbodyconstruction.com. And if you go to the resources area, there's a free ebook there called Magic Pill: Lifestyle Secrets of a Personal Trainer, and I highly recommend you get it. And as you can see, as you've seen from hearing Jeff's hero's journey, hearing how, you know, he's had a mother with medical problems, and he had a business that was, I was going to say mildly successful, but yeah, let's face it, it was challenging. And I said mildly successful because, well, guess what? You're going to have to go back and watch to see why I didn't say it was mildly successful, but it was a challenge at the best. He had one business. He realized it wasn't his passion. He realized that there was something else he should be doing. He trusted his gut, and he's turned what used to be a sub, $50,000 a year business, $33,000, and with expenses, it was a lot less than that, as you'll hear when you go back and watch the hero's journey into a multiple six-figure business. And then you want to, if you're just joining us now, you definitely want to go back and listen to and watch the rest of the Experts Focus segment. When we talked about things like being accountable, we talked about nutrition, and we talked about knowledge of a plan. And a lot of stuff you're going to hear in there isn't the same old that everybody else is just out pumping. Jeff does this virtual training thing, which I just think is epic, and it's just amazing that nobody else has done it before then. I think it's going to be one of the next big things, and if you want to get on the forefront and want to get an epic personal trainer, you need to reach out to Jeff. But heck, by the time this show airs, he might not even be taking clients anymore. He might be so busy. I mean, he's already got people like Pat Flynn and Chris Drucker on. So if people like that can trust Jeff with their body, you can too. So what you definitely want to do is go out to totalbodyconstruction.com and check Jeff out. Jeff, I think there might even be, at least at the time of recording, there might be something about booking a free assessment. I don't know if it's going to be there when this episode actually airs, but I think I might have saw that on your website. I know I saw a lot of epic stuff there. Folks, like I said, if you haven't watched the rest of the episode, go back and watch, because you're going to understand for yourself, and your gut's going to be able to tell you why Jeff is the guy that you need to work with. And folks, until we meet again, Jeff, thank you for being an epic guest. Thank you for coming on Expert Showcase today, sharing all your knowledge. Thank you for the free resource you're giving people. Folks, I definitely recommend you go out and check it out. And until we meet again, make it an epic day.
To watch the rest of this epic episode now, click on the link below the video. Do it now. You'll be glad you did. Are you still here? What are you waiting for? Watch the rest of this epic episode now by clicking on the link below the video.